Coming up, the Suns and Clippers met for the first time since last year's Western Conference Finals, and a full slate of NBA games coming your way. Our Locked On NBA hosts are here to tell you all about it on Locked On Now.
The biggest games, the best performances, expert analysis. You are Locked On Now.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Now NBA, local experts on the biggest stories on the hardwood. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. Our Locked On NBA hosts are here. They're going to break it all down for you with the games from Monday. The Warriors and Pacers took it down to the wire last night in our biggest game.
The biggest game.
Now, the Pacers were able to keep Steph Curry waiting at least one more game to break the NBA's all-time three-point record, but they couldn't stop the Warriors from getting a win. Locked On Pacers recaps the night.
Tony East, the host of Locked On Pacers, here in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, where the Pacers just fell to the Warriors in a game where Steph Curry fell just short of the NBA record for threes. He was 2 away from breaking it, 1 away from tying it, had a chance right at the end to miss it, but that didn't matter because on his miss, Kevon Looney grabs the rebound, puts it back up and in, and that gave the Warriors a 102-100 win, which they ended up using to cruise to their victory tonight. And cruise is totally the wrong word, but that just rolled off the tongue because the Pacers were ahead for much of this game. They looked like they had a good chance to beat the Warriors. They were very rarely losing. There were not a ton of lead changes in this game. They were up 9 multiple times. It looked like the Pacers were going to roll. Sabonis had 30 points in a double-double. Malcolm Brogdon defended Steph well and had 23 points. Caris LeVert had 19, and none of the Pacers role players stepped up to meet that level that the Pacers' best 3 players had. The Pacers could have won this one. It would have been a 4-game winning streak for them against a very good Warriors team, but they fell just short right at the end. They needed a little more. They still need to be better at closing games. A lot of same old in this loss for the Pacers. We'll break it all down and more on Curry's nearly special night on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
The Memphis Grizzlies took advantage of a Sixers team without Joel Embiid, and they were able to pick up a win. Locked On Grizzlies tells you how Memphis jumped at that chance.
A night of efficiency from Dillon Brooks and another bit of team history made by the Memphis Grizzlies highlight another very impressive victory, beating the Philadelphia 76ers by 35 points on the night. Sean Coleman here with the Locked On Grizzlies podcast. Of course, the Sixers being out without Joel Embiid certainly is something unexpected that, played to the Grizzlies' favor, but it was the Grizzlies' defense, along with, for the second straight game, Dillon Brooks stepping up, that made all the difference in the world. For the second time in his career, Dillon Brooks had 25 points for 2 consecutive games, and he absolutely was the best offensive player on the court for the night, though Tyrese Maxey certainly had a great game for the 76ers. But what really stood out, once again, was the Grizzlies' defense. The Grizzlies set a franchise record with their 8th straight game of 10 or more steals. And the significance of that, of course, as I mentioned on yesterday's Locked On Grizzlies podcast, is the Grizzlies' consistent ability to use defense to turn into offense. It seems like nearly every single game they go through this surge in the second or third quarter where they get consecutive plays where they create a turnover, get out on the run, score fast break points, and really take over the momentum of the game. And it absolutely is what made the difference tonight. Plus another outstanding effort from the bench, including DeAnthony Melton, who certainly has regained his form in the month of December. A very impressive victory for the Grizzlies. We'll have this and much more. The Grizzlies, once again, another big victory heading into a tough stretch of their schedule coming around the Christmas holiday. We'll have this and much more on the post-game edition of the Locked On Grizzlies podcast.
Kevin Love was able to turn back the clock last night, led the Cavaliers to a win at home over Miami. Locked On Cavs tells you more on the big night and a big win for Cleveland.
Hey everyone, Evan Damrell here, co-host of Locked On Cavs at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse after the Cleveland Cavaliers' 105-94 win over the Miami Heat. Heading into this season, many called Kevin Love untradeable due to his $31.3 million contract and an injury history that would make any long list blush, just grasping at straws here. But either way, after this game tonight against Miami, Love truly may be untradeable for Cleveland because he was a key factor for the Cavaliers coming off the bench, where he finished the night with the most three-pointers made, 5 of 8 shooting, and he has just been a positive presence on both ends of the floor for Cleveland, and he's just been great. That's just simply put. Hear about this and more on tomorrow's Locked On Cavs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Coming up, Jayson Tatum dropped 42 points on the reigning champs en route to a Boston win. We'll have much more on Locked On Now NBA. This episode of Locked On Now brought to you by Bet Online, the #1 spot for all of your online betting needs, especially now that basketball season is fully underway. Now, whether it's props or odds, or you like to do weird parlays like I like to do, they have you covered for all of that. And if you sign up today, you can get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. You just use promo code Locked On to receive that bonus. Again, you get 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit by using promo code Locked On. Welcome back to Locked On Now NBA, local experts on every single game. I'm Kanani Stevens. We'll continue to look back at the action from Monday night in the NBA. Jayson Tatum, he scored 42 points and took down the Bucks almost by himself in our best performance. Locked On Celtics breaks it all down.
The best performance.
Hold up.
Hey there, John Corrales here after the Boston Celtics 117-103 win over the Milwaukee Bucks. Jayson Tatum, 42 points, 16 of 25 shooting, a huge night. And Jaylen Brown's return, 19 points, 5 assists, and really opening things up for the Boston Celtics on their floor. The ball movement was awesome, 31 assists on 43 made baskets. That's the type of ball movement that the Celtics are looking for every day. In the defense, what can I say about this defense? They held Chris Middleton in check. I know he left with an injury late, but they held him to 4 points on 2 of 8 shooting. The type of defense that's going to make Ime Udoka proud. Al Horford did an amazing job on Giannis Antetokounmpo, really helping the Celtics hold him and Chris Middleton, who is a Celtics killer, in check. Defense was on point, offense was on point, and I'm going to talk about it on the Locked On Celtics podcast. So please make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube.
The Houston Rockets won on the road for just the second time this season, and Locked On Rockets is going to take full advantage of the opportunity, the rare opportunity, to recap a Houston win.
Huge come from behind win as the Rockets trailed by as many as 19 points, overcoming the Atlanta Hawks on the road for their second win on the road of the season. What's up, Jackson Gatlin here from Locked On Rockets. The Rockets finding a way, undermanned, understaffed, to get it done against the Atlanta Hawks for just their second road win of the season. The Rockets starters struggling in this game, but then the Rockets bench unit led by DJ Augustine and David Nwaba, who doesn't even see the rotation at times this season, led the Rockets bench unit to the upset on the road against the Hawks. Steven Silas electing to go with the lineup that got the Rockets back into this game, not going back to the starters down the stretch. Alperen Sengun's first closing minutes in a close basketball game this season, and the Rockets take the win. We'll break it all down for you right over at Live.
After letting one of the worst teams in the NBA come into Atlanta and get a dub, Locked On Hawks says this is Atlanta's worst loss of the season to date.
Hello friends, my name is Brad Rowland. Atlanta Hawks go down by a final score of 132-126 at the hands of the Houston Rockets, and simply put, this is the worst loss of the season for the Hawks. They led this game comfortably for most of the way, and they were favored by double digits at home against the Rockets. And credit to Houston, they played very hard and very well down the stretch, but the Hawks led by 19 in the first half and by 17 late in the third quarter, only to collapse in the closing period, gave up 44 points. Yes, 44 points in the fourth quarter to Houston. And honestly, it was not good, let's just say, overall for the Hawks in this game. They're now 1-4 in the last 5. They've lost 5 straight at home after a hot start at State Farm Arena. And in general, the Hawks' fourth quarter issues have been continuing for a while now, but usually it's been the offense. Tonight it was the defense. Offensively, they were not great down the stretch, but they just could not get a stop the entire way down the stretch. And Trae Young was brilliant offensively in this game, carrying the Hawks to high heights, but it was not quite enough in this spot as they have plenty to get to, plenty to discuss on this game and much more. They're now under 500 for the season, which is not where they wanted to be at this point after their deep run in the playoffs last year, and we'll touch on all of that and more on the Locked On Hawks podcast.
The Clippers took a 10-point lead into the fourth quarter and put their foot on the gas and were able to get a big win over the Suns in their first matchup since last year's Western Conference Finals. Locked On Clippers recaps the impressive win.
What is going on, Clips fans? Chuck Mockler here. one half of the hosting duo over at Locked On Clippers, coming at you after a shorthanded Clippers team beats a not as shorthanded Suns team 111-95. Marcus Morris has 24 points. He was hitting shots from everywhere on the floor, but the mid-range buckets had to be backbreaking for the Phoenix Suns to watch this go in over and over. Ivica Zubac played fantastic defensively. He was great on Chris Paul when he was tasked with guarding him. An all-around great performance from the whole team, really, on both ends in this one. 7 clips in double digits. They got a win streak going. They've been shorthanded. We'll take anyone we can get, especially against a divisional opponent. It's on to the Jazz on Wednesday.
That's going to do it for us. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single day. For more on the association and your specific team, make sure you check out Locked On NBA and your team's Locked On podcast. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Now.